When Nick Saban retired, there were so many Alabama studs that entered the transfer portal. So many stars left the Crimson Tide, from Caleb Downs to Roydell Williams and many other names. There were a number of really good players who joined new teams this offseason. One of the premier players who entered their name in the portal that left Alabama was wide receiver Isaiah Bond, a player who was fantastic last year at Alabama, and when he transferred to Texas, many people thought it was very reminiscent of when they signed A.D. Mitchell out of the portal. How good is Isaiah Bond, and how high should he ultimately be selected in the 2025 draft? That is what we will be talking about in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I'll leave linked in the description below. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide and player evaluations, as well as exclusive prospect interviews. It is one of my favorite things I have ever produced on my channel, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. Leave a like and comment who you guys want to see in a future video, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Isaiah Bond. Bond was absolutely fantastic for Alabama as a sophomore. Many people were worried about the receiving room going into the year as they had lost some players to the NFL, but Bond took a huge jump and was awesome for them. He had 49 receptions for 671 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season, and he was one of the most explosive players in the country, and he shocked many people when he decided to transfer to Texas. But early in the season, that move is paying dividends as he has looked better than he ever has in his career. In the first 4 games as a Longhorn, Bond has 15 receptions for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he has looked so explosive. He has been flying up draft boards, and he's a very intriguing prospect. Athletically, Bond is absolutely fantastic. He has some of the best speed in the entire draft class, particularly his long speed, which really stuck out to me. He keeps his foot on the gas through the entire play and has the ability to beat DBs down the field. He has had so many deep plays already this season for Texas, and his speed down the field is absolutely lethal, and he can just run right by defenders. Another area he shows his quickness and athleticism is as a route runner. He is super quick and shifty when breaking out of his routes and does a really nice job of separating in one-on-one situations. But I also really liked what he did against zone coverage. He does a super good job of finding the soft spots in zone, settling down, and making himself available for his quarterback. And he has a really great understanding of space and where he needs to be at all times on the football field. Another area where his spatial awareness is very apparent is along the sidelines. Bond has really great body control, and he's super gifted physically and has an excellent understanding of space. The last thing I really like about Bond are his hands. He has incredibly solid hands for the position, and it seems like he caught just about everything thrown his way. He only has 5 drops in his collegiate career, and that is a 5.8% drop rate, which I think is very good. He catches nearly everything you throw him, and when you mix that with his speed, his body control, and his route running, you could have a potentially special wide receiver talent. Bond is not a perfect wide receiver, however, and I think he needs to improve in a couple of areas in his game. For one, considering how fast Bond is, he's really not good after the catch. It never felt like he saw lanes open up and he didn't really know where to go after he caught the football, which really surprised me. He is averaging 5.7 yards after catch per play in his collegiate career, which I don't love at all. And he has had some big plays after the catch, but it's primarily on busted coverages where there's nobody around. I would like to see a little bit more dynamism from Bond after the catch and see him be a little bit more elusive when breaking some tackles. Bond is also not the biggest receiver in the world. He's 5'11", which is fine for his height, but 180 pounds is a little thin, and he does have a smaller frame, and it shows when he was matched up against more physical corners. He had a 20% contested catch rate in 2023, and I want to see him be a bit more physical at the catch point. While he hasn't shown that up to this point in his career, I would like to see it, because it also shows as a blocker where he really didn't have the physicality or the base to really provide any sort of blocking on the outside. Isaiah Bond is an explosive receiver who has great hands, terrific speed in the open field, and he's a good route runner as well. I've been really impressed with how good he has looked in the Texas offense. He was one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft coming into the year, and he has stayed near the top of my board as he is the number 5 wide receiver in this class, with him and Alec Iomanner having an identical grade. He's not the most physical player in the world, which is my biggest holdup for him, and if he did have a little bit more dynamism after the catch, you could argue he is just as good as any of the top receivers in this class, but he still does have a first-round grade from me. I think Bond works best as a pure deep threat at the NFL level. He has such electric speed, and that's where he has felt the most effective in his collegiate career. He has great deep ball route running, great hands to track the football, and electric speed as well, and that's where I think he is going to thrive at the NFL level. My player comparison for Isaiah Bond is San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. Both of them are really terrific route runners and shifty players who have exceptional hands as well. Neither of them are necessarily the biggest or most physical wide receivers in the world, and I think that Bond could be on a very similar trajectory as Ayuk was as a former first-round pick. While I think Bond has better speed than Ayuk, I think when you talk about play style, they have a very comparable game. Isaiah Bond is an explosive player. He's one of the best pure deep threats in the entire draft class, and he's an elite route runner to pair with it. I really like the tools that he brings at the wide receiver position, and I think he's going to be an awesome NFL player whose stock is going to continue to rise. Ultimately, I believe that Isaiah Bond will be a first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.